Hi, today we talk about the Roman calendar. Did you know that the calendar that we use today is the one that was introduced by Julius Caesar and that just a very slight correction was introduced only in the 16th century? If you want to know more, just follow me. The first question is, what day is today? Well, this question is very apparently an easy one because, of course, you can pick up your mobile phone or just look at the calendar that is hanging in your wall and you know what day is today. But there was a time where this question was not an easy one because there was no calendar. So there was a point in time when someone introduced the calendar. This was done in several different cultures, and Roman also had to introduce their own calendar. So how to build up a calendar? Well, first of all, one has to look at the normal cycles that nature is showing us. So the first of all is of course the alternation of night and day. uh, this alternation define the unit called day, and the Babylonian made their day start at, in the morning and at dawn, while the Greeks did the same at sunset. The Roman decided to have this moment of change between 2 days at midnight. Of course, they were not very precise in the measure of the midnight, but it was a good way. And still today we are using the same approach. At midnight we change the date. Of course, this is not enough because we would have just a sequence of day without defining a higher cycle, a longer cycles. So we need to find something else in order to group together a set of days. The most evident natural cycle is the one of the lunar phases. We can take as the reference the new moon and calculate the time between two new moons. This is referred to as a synodic month and has a length of 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes and something. Unfortunately, we can see it. We are not dealing with an exact number of days. So when we measure the synodic month and when we adapt it to a calendar that is based on days, we will need to have months of a different numbers of days to recover, the delta with respect to the 29 days. What the Roman did, well, they called the first day when the new moon as a calendar, and then they calculate every month the length of the month. They calculate the number of days till the end of the month. Calends are dedicated to the goddess Juno because of her lunar aspect. The name Calends probably derives from the Latin verb calare, that means to call, probably referring to the fact that the pontiffs were declaring the new moon in the comitia calata, that were an event when they had to appoint new Vestal virgins or new pontiffs and so on. The Comitia Calata, the pontiff, was establishing when, after how many days, the mid of the month would occur. So the mid of the month was called Ides and was dedicated, and is still today dedicated, to Roman religion, to Jupiter in his solar aspect, because the moon is full, so it's reflecting completely the light of the sun. The mid-month was established either on the 13th day of the month or on the 15th day of the month. Johann Lidus explained us that the 13th is a very important number because it is composed by the square of the number 2 and of the number 3, where the number 2 represents the dyad, so the matter, and the number 3 represent the completion of the first manifestation. It may sound strange that we speak about numerology, but in ancient time, numerology was an important piece of knowledge. Then the ancient wanted also to celebrate the first quarter moon that was occurring between the new moon, the calendars, and the mid-moon, the Ides. So the first quarter was calculated to occur on the 9th day before the Ides. So if the Ides were defined on the 13th, the first quarter was on the 5th of the month. If the Ides were defined on the 15th, then the first quarter was on the 7th. As it is anyway on the 9th day before the Ides, it is called, this feast is called nonas, because nona, it means 9th. So this is why in Latin we have the nonae of the month, and they are really 9 days before the Ides. How were the days counted? Well, we have the calends on the first of the month. This is quite simple. Then after the calend, we start counting the days with ordinal number that are needed to go till the nones. Then just before the nona, we don't say the second days before the nona, we say predie nonas, and then we say the nones. And after the nones, we count the number of days missing to the Ides. And then after the Ides, we count the number of days missing to the calends of the following month. So it is a kind of countdown logic. We can see the month of March as an example. We have the calends are indicated always with the letter K instead of C, because in the ancient, in the archaic alphabet, the K was indicating the sound K, while the letter C was indicating the sound G. This is somehow an archaism that we have in the calendar. And this is also this kind of archaism you can find, for instance, in names. When you find Gneus, actually you should read Gneus, and when you find Caius, you should read Gaius. But let's forget about it. It's not really the topic of this lesson. After the second day of the month, so just after the calendar, we start to count the day missing from the nonas. So we are on the 6th day before the nonas of March, and so on. Then we have the 5th day, the 4th day, the 3rd day. We don't use the 2nd day, but we used to say predie, so the day before the nonas. And then we have the nonas. After the nonas, we start the countdown to the calends of the following month, and we follow exactly the same logic. Well, then we have to establish a longer cycle of times, because, to have just a sequence of months, we are not really reflecting what nature is showing us, all the cycle of the agricultural cycles and so on. We are losing really a lot of information. So the next cycle we need to define is based on the apparent motion of the sun in the skies in our skies. So in order to do that, what the ancients did, they had to put a pole on the ground and then measure the length of the shadow of the sun when the sun was culminating south. So what they did, if we do the same exercise, we can see actually that if we measure the time between the two periods of the year when the length of the sun is at the longest, then we can find that this length of time is 365 days. Actually, if we measure for more years, we find that 365 is a little too short. It is 365 and a quarter, so we need to add 1 day every 4 years. So we have 3 years of 365 and 1 year of 366. Then if we can really live a long time and we keep on measuring, we find that it is not really 365 and a quarter. It is 365 dot 2425. Actually, we could go on with this definition of decimal and so on, but for the moment, this is more than enough. Well, the big trouble was to combine the moon months with the solar period of time, with the year. And this was quite complicated because if we put in row, 12 months, then we find that we are short of 11 days. So if we keep 1 year of pure 12 lunar months, we are completely out of the solar year and we need to adjust it. This was the big trouble that was in ancient time. The first calendar that we know is the one introduced by Romulus and was quite peculiar because it had only 10 months. So it was a calendar of 304 days. Probably we can just guess this was due to the fact that in winter there was no activity, no agricultural activities, and also there were no wars. Wars were done only from spring to autumn. So actually it looked at the time that these 2 months were not useful or were not the time to be measured. There is also another theory that would like to see this 10 months calendar as an heritage of the time when the Romans were living in a Hyperborean country. But, this is just a theory and a speculation. Let's go back to our calendar. So, what is really incredible is that the name of the months are still in use today after so many millennia. So the first month of the calendar was dedicated to the god Mars, and it is the month of March. Martius means the month of the god Mars. Then Mars was seen also as the god of the male principle. This month was followed by the month of April. April probably is derived by the Etruscan month of April, that was the correspondence of Aphrodite in Greek. So Aphrodite is April, so April would be the month of Aphrodite, of Venus, and it is the female principle. However, there is another tradition that say that the month of April comes from the Latin words aperire, so to open, because in that time nature is blossoming, so the flowers are opening somehow. And then we have the month of May from the goddess Maya, that is a goddess of fertility, an ancient Italic goddess. And June, it is the month dedicated to the goddess Juno, which is the goddess also of childbirth. So this sequence of months is quite interesting because we would have the male principle, the female principle, followed by the fertility and the childbirth. So it's really a good wishing sequence of months. The following months were counted simply like quintilis, like the month number 5, sextilis, the month number 6, September, the month number 7, and so on till December, the month number 10. Numa Pompilius then introduced 2 months, January dedicated to the god Janus, that is the god of starting, And then February, dedicated to purification, Februa, and to the chthonic deities. Johann Lidus explains that for the reason that this month is dedicated to chthonic deities, Numa Pompilius wanted to keep this month shorter with respect to the other months that were dedicated to the celestial gods. The year terminated during the feast of Terminalia in February. So the month of February was divided actually in two by this Terminalia. They were not at the end of the month. And so the first part of the month was till the 23rd, and then the second part was till the end, was 5 days more. And so what Numa Pompilio did? Well, he introduced from time to time a new month, Mercedonius. We can see that there was a quite elaborate pattern with 4 regular 4-year cycles with an alternation of month without Macedonius and month with Macedonius. And then the last part of this sequence is somehow asymmetrical. But the good thing of this calendar was that at the end was able to keep 365.25 days as an average length of the year. So it was working. However, the problem was that the pontiffs were in charge to keep this calendar running, and as it was quite complicated during the century, several mistakes were adding on, disalignment between the calendar and the real position of the sun. So when Julius Caesar was elected, co-opted pontiff, then there was a huge misalignment, and so Julius Caesar decided to make a reform of the calendar. The year 46 before the current era was a year exceptionally long because it was a 15 months, so it was a year of 456 days in order to recover the missing time. And in addition, Julius Caesar simply detached the calendar from the moon and eliminated the month of Mercedonius. And so he kept the year exactly as we know it today, introducing, so in a year of 365 days, introducing every fourth year and one more day for the leap year. Julius Caesar, of course, this reform with the help of an astronomer, an Egyptian astronomer that was Sosigenes. It should be noted that actually the calendar of Julius Caesar was working very well. Just imagine that only in 1582 there was a 10-day delays that was accumulated during time, and for this reason there was a small change in the application of the leap year under the Pope Gregorian. So we have this Gregorian calendar today that is practically the same as the Julian calendar, but with the introduction of the correction of the leap year. Well, it's still worthy to say that we have 2 months which have changed their name after the reform of Julius Caesar. So the month of Quintilius, the original 5th month, was changed to July to honor Julius Caesar. This was a proposal by Augustus Emperor as a sign of respect for his father. And then also the month of Sextilis, so the sixth month of the ancient calendar, was transformed in Augustus, in August, to honor Augustus the emperor. Then this stopped. I mean, the following emperor, Tiberius, didn't want to apply more change to the calendar, also because he was commenting that probably there would have been more than 12 emperors, and he was pretty right. And so the Senate did not change the calendar anymore. So I hope that you didn't get any headache for this lesson with all the numbers of the calendars and the counting of the days and so on. Just let me conclude that the Movimento Tradizionale Romano, MTR, is using the current Gregorian calendar, so the Julius Caesar calendar, with the introduction of the correction of the leap years. Even because it's very easy to calculate the date having the current calendar. So just you need just to count how many days you need to go till the nonas and calendars of the following month. Just remember that the months have generally the Ides on the 13th of the month, with the exception of March, May, July, and October, when the Ides are on the day 15th. Said that, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I hope to see you in the next one, when we will introduce the feast, the main feast of the Roman calendar. So I hope to see you next time. Vale bene.